July 8, 1968. Bumpy Johnson's funeral. A woman nobody recognized approached the grave. She placed an envelope on the casket and disappeared into the crowd. Inside, a handwritten note. 1952. You paid for my son's surgery. I never knew your name until today. Thank you. By the end of the service, there were 47 envelopes, all from strangers, all saying the same thing. Bumpy Johnson had been dead for 3 days, and people were still discovering he'd saved their lives. This is the story nobody tells about Harlem's most feared gangster. The story that changes everything you thought you knew. To understand what they found after Bumpy died, you need to understand what Harlem was in the 1940s and 50s. Poverty wasn't just an economic condition. It was a system. Black families paid double rent for half the space. Black kids went to schools with no heat in winter. And when emergencies happened, there was no safety net, no welfare, no government help, just desperation. Bumpy Johnson saw all of it. He walked those streets every day. Lenox Avenue, 125th Street, Sugar Hill. He knew every family, every struggle, every impossible choice parents had to make. But here's what nobody knew. Every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m., Bumpy would leave his apartment alone. No bodyguards, no crew, just him in a leather briefcase. His wife Mamie asked him once where he went. He said checking on investments. She thought he meant numbers, banks, or gambling operations. She was wrong. March 15, 1949, PS 135 Elementary School on West 140th Street. The principal, Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, arrived at 7 a.m. On her desk, a brown envelope. No name, no return address. Inside, $500 in cash and a typewritten note. For books, for supplies, for whatever the children need. Don't ask questions, just use it. She used the money to buy textbooks the school board had denied funding for. New arithmetic books, geography, science materials that hadn't been updated since 1923. The next Tuesday, another envelope appeared. Same amount, same note. This continued for 6 years. Every single Tuesday, $500. Mrs. Hayes tried to catch whoever was leaving the money. She came early. She stayed late. Nobody saw anything. The money just appeared. But PS 135 wasn't the only school. Frederick Douglass Junior High, Wadley High School, St. Philip's Academy. All over Harlem, principals were finding mysterious envelopes, all on Tuesdays, all with the same message, for the children. By 1955, Bumpy Johnson was financing the education of over 300 students across Harlem, and nobody knew it was him. Here's how he did it. Bumpy ran the numbers racket. Illegal lottery. Poor people betting nickels, hoping for miracles. And that money, those accumulated nickels and dimes, went into what Bumpy called his community fund. He kept 2 sets of books, one for the Italian mob that demanded their cut, one for himself. The mob never knew about the second book. Every month, Bumpy skimmed 10% off the top before paying tribute to the Italians. Not for himself, for Harlem. He kept meticulous records. Names, addresses, amounts, dates. He documented every dollar like he was running a legitimate charity. In a way, he was. May 1953, a woman named Ruth Miller lived in a tenement on 118th Street. Her husband had died in a factory accident. She had 3 kids under 10. She was 2 months behind on rent. The landlord gave her 1 week to pay or get evicted. She was cleaning houses for $3 a day. The math didn't work. Wednesday morning, she found an envelope under her door. Inside, $200 and a note. Your rent is paid for 6 months. Use the rest for your children. You don't owe anyone anything. Her landlord confirmed it. Someone had paid her rent in cash that morning, before sunrise. He didn't see who. Ruth never found out who helped her. Not until 1968. Not until she read Bumpy Johnson's obituary, and something clicked. The timing, the Tuesdays, the way the money appeared like magic. What Ruth didn't know was that Bumpy had been watching her building for weeks. He'd seen her walking to work before dawn, seen her kids waiting outside in winter because the heat didn't work, seen her cry when she thought nobody was looking. He didn't know her name, didn't need to. He just saw a woman fighting impossible odds, and he had the power to change that. So he did. That same year, another envelope, another family. The Washington's son, Marcus, was 8 years old and diabetic. One Tuesday in November, Marcus collapsed at school. The hospital demanded $125 before releasing him. The Washingtons didn't have it. Then a hospital administrator approached them. Your bill's been paid. Someone called this morning. An hour later, a courier arrived, carrying a sealed envelope. Inside, $125 for the hospital, plus another $200 with a note. For 6 months of insulin, your son deserves to live. The Washingtons kept that note for 15 years. After Bumpy died, Mrs. Washington recognized the typewriter font. Same machine, same paper. It had been him all along. The pattern was always the same. Tuesdays, early morning, anonymous, no recognition requested. Bumpy helped people who had no idea they were being helped by the most dangerous man in Harlem. But why Tuesdays? May figured it out years later. Tuesdays were collection days. Monday, the numbers runners brought in the week's bets. Tuesday morning, Bumpy counted everything, separated the community fund, then delivered it personally. He went himself because he needed to see where the money was going, needed to see the schools, the families, the neighborhood he was protecting. June 1957, 5:30 a.m. Bumpy woke up before sunrise. He dressed in a simple dark suit, nothing flashy, no jewelry, no fedora. He wanted to be invisible. In the kitchen, he opened his ledger. This week's community fund, $1,840, $500 to PS 89. Their boiler had broken, $300 to the Johnson family. Their father had been arrested on false charges, $200 to St. Luke's Church. Their food pantry was empty. The rest would be divided into small envelopes for families he'd been watching. By 6 a.m., Bumpy was on the street. Harlem at dawn was quiet. He walked, never drove on Tuesdays. Walking let him see things. A broken street light, a new family moving in, an old woman struggling with grocery bags. He'd stop and carry them. She never knew who he was. First stop, PS 89. He slipped inside, placed the envelope on the principal's desk. On it he wrote, "For the boiler, for the children, stay warm." The whole thing took 90 seconds. Just a ghost delivering miracles. 7:15 a.m. The Johnson apartment. Mrs. Johnson answered the door and froze. Everyone in Harlem knew Bumpy Johnson's face. Her voice shook. "Mr. Johnson, we don't have any trouble." Bumpy held up the envelope. "Your husband, I heard about the arrest. This should cover bail and a lawyer." He handed her the money. "Make sure he comes home." Then he walked away. This was every Tuesday for 23 years. Malcolm X once asked him about it. This was 1963, a few years before Malcolm's death. They were sitting in Small's paradise. Malcolm said, "They say you're Robin Hood, taking from the rich, giving to the poor." Bumpy shook his head. "I'm not taking from the rich. I'm taking from the desperate and giving it back to the desperate, just redistributing it better than the city ever could." Malcolm leaned forward. "But why hide it? You could build power with this." Bumpy shook his head slowly. "The moment I use charity to buy loyalty, it stops being charity. It becomes manipulation. I don't want people to follow me because I helped them. I want them to stand on their own." Malcolm studied him. "Politicians help people so everyone can see. You help people so nobody can see. That's rare. That's real." Bumpy took a sip of his drink. "It's also the only way to sleep at night when you've done the things I've done." Years later, people found notes Malcolm had written about Bumpy. One line stood out. He understood something most revolutionaries miss. You can't liberate people by making them dependent on you. You liberate them by giving them tools and disappearing. July 7, 1968. Bumpy Johnson died of a heart attack at Wells Restaurant. He was 62 years old. When his lawyer went to his apartment to inventory his estate, he found something that changed everything. A fireproof safe in the bedroom closet. Inside, 17 ledgers, handwritten, dating back to 1945. Every page documented a donation. Mrs. Patterson, $50. Groceries. PS 89, $500. New desks. Rodriguez family, $300. Father's funeral. Page after page, year after year, thousands of entries. The lawyer Samuel Brooks sat on Bumpy's bedroom floor reading for 6 hours. He'd represented Bumpy for 12 years. He thought he knew this man. He was wrong. One entry from 1951. Anonymous, boy at PS 140, saw him reading in the street because no light at home. $50 for desk lamp and books. Kid's name unknown. Doesn't matter. He was reading. That matters. Brooks found something else. Letters. Dozens of them. Letters Bumpy had written but never sent. One to his mother, who died in 1940. "Mama, you told me to use my mind, not my fists. I didn't listen. But I'm trying now." Every Tuesday I do something you'd be proud of. Hope that counts for something." The lawyer calculated the total. Over 23 years, Bumpy Johnson had given away $847,000 in 1968 money. That's equivalent to over $7 million today. Money that never went to cars or jewelry or mansions. Money that went to Harlem. Brooks called Mamie into the bedroom, showed her the ledgers. She sat on the bed and cried, not because she didn't know her husband was generous, but because she never knew the scale. Never knew that every Tuesday morning when he said he was checking on business, he was actually saving lives. The funeral was massive. Thousands lined the streets. And that's when the envelopes started appearing. People who'd been helped anonymously figured it out when Bumpy died. The timing matched. The Tuesdays matched. So they came to say thank you. 47 envelopes that first day. By the end of the week there were over 200. Mrs. Dorothy Hayes came forward publicly. She told newspapers about the Tuesday envelopes, about 6 years of anonymous donations. Other principals came forward, other families. The story spread, and suddenly Bumpy Johnson wasn't just the gangster who fought the mob. He was the man who saved Harlem's children. The New York Times ran a story, buried on page 11. The headline, "Harlem Crime Boss Had Secret Charity Operation." But Harlem didn't need the Times to tell them who Bumpy was. They already knew. Within days of the funeral, something remarkable happened. People started leaving money at Bumpy's grave. Not flowers, money, dollar bills, quarters and dimes. People who had almost nothing giving what little they had. A note left with a crumpled $5 bill. "You paid my rent in 1954. I was 9 years old. I'm 23 now. I have a job because I stayed in school. This is all I can give back." A week after the funeral, Harlem business owners met at Small's Paradise. They would continue what Bumpy started. They called it the Tuesday Fund. Every week they'd collect money from those who could give and distribute it to those who needed it. Anonymous, no recognition, just the work. The Tuesday Fund operated for 17 years, from 1968 to 1985. It helped over 2,000 families. The organizers followed Bumpy's model exactly: give quietly, help invisibly, expect nothing. When the fund closed in 1985, they released a single statement. "Bumpy Johnson taught us that power without compassion is tyranny, and compassion without action is just words. We tried to honor that." One of the ledgers had a note on the first page, written in Bumpy's handwriting. "Respect isn't given, it's earned. And you don't earn it by telling people what you did. You earn it by doing what needs to be done and never asking for credit." That's who Bumpy Johnson really was. Not just the enforcer. Not just the strategist who outsmarted the Italian mob. He was the man who understood that real power isn't about fear. It's about responsibility. And his responsibility was to the people who made him king. Mamie Johnson, his widow, lived until 2009. She spent her final years trying to tell this story, trying to make people understand that her husband wasn't a saint, but he wasn't a monster either. He was complicated, violent when necessary, generous when possible. In 2004, a reporter asked Mamie if Bumpy ever regretted his life. She thought for a long time, then she said, "He regretted the violence, he regretted the people he hurt, but he never regretted the Tuesdays, never regretted a single dollar he gave away." That was the part of himself he was proud of, the part nobody knew about until it was too late to thank him. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968, but his Tuesdays never stopped, because the people he helped, they remembered, and they helped others. Mrs. Ruth Miller started a scholarship fund in 1970. Every year she gave $200 to a Harlem student. She called it the Tuesday Fund. She never explained why. If this story changed how you see power, respect, and what it means to protect your community, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you believe real strength is helping people who can never pay you back. Share this with someone who needs to know that history is never just black and white. It's complicated, it's human, it's real.